Yeah, we were keeping the faith. Yeah, 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 keeping the faith. Hey, hun.
Yeah?
Remember those old YouTube videos?
What YouTube videos, hun?
You know, the old YouTube videos that I started making when I was majoring in film in college, and I uploaded them when I discovered what YouTube was, and then they started getting a lot of attention after someone on the Something Awful message board started a thread about them. And then some of the videos were featured on the front page, which led to this kind of snowball effect where I was getting more subscribers and more views, and then I made more videos. And then there was one that even got featured on a Geico commercial and helped me pay off my first car. And then a producer emailed me after seeing my Goodfellas reenactment and had me audition for an independent film that I got the part in, and then I flew to Florida to shoot it for 3 weeks and then ended up getting a manager in Los Angeles. And then I decided to drop out of college to see where this acting thing might go, and then I got to be on Jimmy Kimmel Live. I flew to LA for a couple weeks and signed with an agent, and I got to meet Jimmy Kimmel, who sat me down in his office after one of his shows and gave me advice for writing comedy. And then I quit my job at the grocery store and moved to LA in 2009 after getting a part in that straight-to-DVD American Pie movie that shot in Vancouver for 6 weeks and was one of the highlights of my life. And then I got this part in Bucky Larson, Born to be a Star, which still has a 0% on Rotten Tomatoes, but we still saw it in theaters. But then after we watched my scenes, we left and we snuck into a different theater to see Contagion. And then I got a part as a series regular on a CBS sitcom called Living on a Prayer, but then that didn't get picked up. And then I started getting depressed because I was away from you and all my friends and family. And then I started eating a lot of Hot Pockets and gained a bunch of weight. And after 2 years, I kind of stopped making the YouTube videos because I was ashamed of not achieving some imaginary level of success that I'd built up in my head, and I really had no drive or motivation in life. I was kind of lost for a while, especially because despite the kind of material I was reading for in casting offices, I didn't consider myself a comedian, but that's how casting directors saw me because I was getting all this attention on YouTube for funny videos. But then I had no desire to do stand-up or audition for Saturday Night Live, and my agent told me once that I should take an improv class at UCB, but after 4 classes I stopped going because I was having major anxiety, and eventually I moved back home and went back to college to finish a degree, and I changed my major to early childhood education because I thought that was something that I always kind of wanted to do, but I never really considered it as a career because when I was 19, I was dumb and decided to major in film because I just liked movies, but I didn't really know what I wanted to do. But then I went back to LA in 2012 just for pilot season. And I kept eating Hot Pockets, and then I got a part playing a live-action version of Cartman on an episode of South Park, which was one of the coolest experiences I've had working on a set. But hey, let's be honest, it wasn't necessarily a great boost of self-esteem to know that I was apparently the ideal candidate to play Eric Cartman. So then I stopped eating Hot Pockets, but then I just ended up eating twice the amount in Lean Pockets, which is almost worse. And then I had a falling out with a person I considered to be my best friend, an experience that ended up being so upsetting that I spent the next 2 years reevaluating who I was and my relationships and why I might have pushed this person away. And then I moved back home for a while again and worked an office job for a while. And then in 2013, I moved back to Los Angeles after I found a Craigslist ad posted by an Armenian man named Vahe, who was looking for someone to rent a 2-bedroom, 2-bathroom apartment in Reseda for like $470 a month, which I thought was either a scam or maybe I was misreading the ad and it was for a sober living facility. But hey, it wasn't a scam. And then I lived there for 2 years, eventually getting 2 major acting roles, one in a heist movie called 7 Minutes and another as a villain in the Scorpion King 4 Quest for Power, which was pretty cool because I got to go to Romania for 2 months. Oh, and somewhere in there, you and I got married, and then you moved to LA with me. But then I didn't have a job, so I figured I'd work at Whole Foods because I had previous grocery store experience when I was in high school and college. But then there was this one day when I was bagging for a cashier, and the cashier was really excited as he told a customer that it was his last day working there because he was graduating with a degree and I don't know what, and had a job lined up. And it made me think for the first time about how much I wanted that kind of stability in my life. And then I decided to drive for Uber instead and didn't even give 2 weeks notice quitting Whole Foods. I just stopped showing up one day, which I still feel kind of guilty about. And then I started driving for Uber for a while and actually enjoyed it. And it was the perfect amount of flexibility I needed when an audition popped up, and I was making decent money, and then you got a job and we were both doing pretty well for a while, but then you lost your job and then I had to start driving like 12 hours a day, 5 days a week just to keep us afloat, which ended up not being enough, and we ended up in debt, especially after all the wear and tear on the car, new brakes, new tires, and then someone rear-ended me on the 110 freeway while I had a passenger in the car, so I couldn't work for an entire month as the car was getting repaired. And then you and I decided to just move back home, but then right around that time I started independently making a documentary web series called No Small Parts about lesser-known actors, and then I went back to school again to finish my degree in early childhood education, but then the managing editor from IMDb got in touch with me and asked me if I could make them a few shorter versions of my No Small Parts videos. So I did 3 of them, and then they hired me to do 12 of them, and then they hired me to make 52 of them, and then they hired me to make some other kinds of videos. And then I ended up getting so busy with that work that I dropped out of school again, which was kind of bittersweet because I was getting straight A's for the first time in my life because I wasn't a young, dumb 19-year-old. And then you and I started going to a trainer twice a week, doing workout sessions, and then I learned to not eat as many Hot Pockets. And over the course of a year, you dropped like 50 pounds, I dropped like 75, and I don't have a fatty liver, sleep apnea, or high blood pressure anymore. And then I started having confidence in myself for the first time in years because I was not only being creative, but I was making something that somebody else saw as valuable. And then you found an amazing job in marketing that you really enjoy, and we were able to buy a house and finally start our lives after years of instability and waiting for an acting role that never came. And there used to be a time when all I ever wanted was to be an actor, but at this point I just want a life with you, and the fact that I still do something creative for a living is such a blessing to me. And besides that, I make a podcast every week, I'm writing screenplays, and I'm trying to pitch a series that I wrote with a friend of mine. But I know nothing's certain in this business, but I'm open to any and all possibilities. As far as I'm concerned, I'm just going to continue working hard, and whatever happens, happens. And then I decided to make these old YouTube videos private and put them in this box here under the bed to sort of permanently move on to my next phase in life, because I really couldn't watch them without cringing, because it felt like I was watching a different person that I didn't like, and it brought back memories about how some of these videos were made for the wrong reasons. But what I totally underestimated was how these videos were actually important in a lot of people's lives, and who am I to get rid of them just because I'm uncomfortable with who I am or who I was. And we should all be able to look back on our past, warts and all, because our pasts have shaped us into who we are.
Okay, what about them?
I think I'm just going to put them on the channel again.